Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's episode, my plan is to get the Y-block motor and the AOD transmission over there on the cart, put it together and stick it in the Camera Lady's chassis. Now, for those of you new to the channel, we're kind of building like a retro style 32 Roadster Highboy. We originally planned on putting a Y-block in it. We picked up a 292 Y-block engine out of a truck. We had a 3-speed transmission with it originally when we basically mocked everything up. It was a good rebuildable core, but then I was doing some work for one of the guys that owned one of the 5 Window Coupes, and he had this rebuilt or refreshed Y-block that he said, well, I'll trade you this for some of the work you're doing. You know, it's already been rebuilt. Another friend had actually bought it for him and heard it running and everything was good. So when we got it, it was just basically a 2-barrel 272 from 1956, rebuilt or refreshed. I'd taken the valve covers off. It was ultra clean inside. One of the things we had to do, because we were running with the steering box in the front, we're using a unisteer. We needed to have a rear sump pan. Now, because we had a 292 Y-block out of a pickup truck, it had a rear sump pan. So I converted this engine over. I put the rear sump on it. The other thing, we had this massive fuel pump with a filter and a vacuum pump on the top of it. It was rebuilt, it was good, but I decided to put another fuel pump on it. And from going on the Y-block forums and that, basically a 390 FE fuel pump works on this engine and it fit, no problem. Seems to make contact and everything is okay. The other upgrade we did to it was that another viewer, a friend, he had a 4-barrel intake manifold from a Thunderbird. It's the wide one. It's not the one for the teapot. It was the one that fit the Holley carburetor. So he actually donated it to the project for potentially some future sheet metal or something he wants done. We put that on it. A gentleman by the name of Jack Hiscock from New Brunswick, he donated a carburetor for us. We're going to trade him some parts for it, but basically he's been rebuilding Holley carburetors his entire life. This thing was completely cleaned and like super cleaned, and it's all been tried and ready to go. The original points distributor we took out, and we've got a Pertronix electronic distributor we put in its place with a vacuum advance. But that's basically the changes we've made to the engine. One of the things that we're going to have to do is, on these engines, they had a big generator on the side. So probably not in this episode, but once I get the engine and the transmission in the chassis, we're going to have to figure out how to mount my 1-wire alternator over here. I've already messed around with it a little bit. I kind of got an idea, but I'll cover that in a future episode. So anyways, long story, this is our 272 Y-block. Last episode, I used my endoscope to look inside to make sure everything was okay. So inside the pistons and that, I've already looked up underneath and had the valve covers off, and it's good. And now it turns over freely, so I don't think we're going to have any issues. We're going to go for this. We're going to hook that up to the AOD, the rebuilt AOD with the adapter, and we're going to get her in the Camera Lady's chassis here. And I'm just put me up in the picture. Hi, I'm at an undisclosed location right now, and I get the chance to play with a louver press. We're just setting it up for a future project, so I'm going to punch a couple of louvers here and see if we can't make a mess. We did try some 4-inch ones and some smaller ones, but we're going to settle doing the bottom ones here. It's a pretty slick press. And we're losing stuff. I think this is the first time it's been used since it came here, so we messed around with some of the dies and kind of like this side here. So that's it on 18 gauge. Does a nice job. Makes it nice and flat. I think this is the one we're going to go for a future project. Press the button to stop it.
Which one? I'll give him a little glance at the car first.
Oh, okay. Well, the first step to getting the Y block attached to the Ford AOD transmission was installing the adapter kit. Now, when we mocked everything up, we did put the adapter plate on, and I think I had the starter on as well so that I could mock up the position of the engine and transmission in the Roadster before we took it apart. But this is the first time I've actually put the flex plate and the adapter on the back of the crank. You can see right down inside there, there's the adapter that goes on the back of the crank. Now, I think there's 3, 4, 5, maybe more different companies that make these adapter kits to adapt various different transmissions on older engines and stuff, and it's all basically the same principle. And they put this big thick aluminum plate on. Most of the time they've got a high torque starter, and they've used a later model flex plate which will adapt up to the later model transmission. The particular one I used was called Performance Adapters, right there. Actually, believe it or not, I found them on Facebook, and then I went to their website and I did some checking up on them, and had pretty good feedback on that. Price-wise, I think they were about the same as most of the other places. Maybe somebody watching this has got a better one, but this is kind of the one that I went with. So right now I've got everything torqued in. The bolts for the flex plate are torqued to 75 foot-pounds, as well as the bolts underneath there to go into the back of the crank. I've got the blue Loctite onto them. Got the starter in place. We've got the engine mounts that I made quite some time ago. We didn't use like the truck engine mount on the front. I made up these brackets. Now, one thing about making these brackets up, if you choose to make them up and you want to use the original Y-shaped truck exhaust manifolds, I think it's on this side. The engine mount is pretty much in the way, so what you would have to do is, if you made them like this, you would have to offset this, which I've done before on one of the 34 Ford chassis. But where we weren't, you're going to use the Y exhaust manifolds or the passenger car manifolds. I made these ones up. So anyway, next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some help. I'm going to get that transmission over there laid on the ground, and then we're going to match it up to the engine here, and we're going to inch our way closer to putting the engine and transmission in the Camber Ladies 32 Ford chassis. Well, what I thought was going to be a really easy task of lowering the Y-block and the transmission into the Camber Ladies chassis turned out to be a little bit more challenge. In the past, what I used to lower the engine in, I have a chain going up there. There's a great big bar, goes across the rafters. I put a block and tackle in there, and I lift it up and I lower it in. But unfortunately, because we're so low on the front chassis there, the engine hoist here will not slip underneath the axle. So essentially then I had to lift, after I got it halfway in, I had to actually lift up the whole front of the car with blocks, set the engine and transmission on a bunch of other blocks over here, there and there, and then reposition it so that the engine and transmission would come in. And then on top of that, the front spreader bar came in contact with the engine hoist here, so we had to stretch it out. So anyway, it would have been really cool to set the time lapse on. Everybody would probably get a giggle, but at the end of the day, we finally got the engine and the transmission in the chassis. It shouldn't be no surprise it would fit, because we've already had one. It had the other Y block in it. Everything was actually built to fit, you know, the engine mounts, the transmission mounts, and everything else. But anyways, for now, we have it in. I do have all my brake line clamps. I've used the combination of the rubber ones and the stainless steel P1s, the little stainless steel P1s down there. Anywheres where I could get the brake line up against the frame, I used those. But in other places where I wanted to reinforce it and the brake line was actually sitting out from the frame, I just used the little rubber reinforced ones that will just keep it from vibrating. So again, like across the front, I used a couple of the rubber ones going in front of the front pulley there, but on the sides I have the stainless steel ones. So this one was a hybrid of both. Depending on the project you work with, you got to kind of have to adapt what you want, but ultimately you just don't want the brake lines being loose and vibrating. So got that taken care of. Right now we are going to push the engine and the chassis back over to the other garage where we do the assembly work, which now, because we've got this engine and transmission out of the way here, it'll free us up to get some more work done over here. Now, in the last episode, I said that I would introduce you to the third project we kind of have before. So the third project, just to kind of reintroduce it, is a 1933 5-window coupe. Obviously, you don't see the coupe here right now, but this is the beginning part. This is the chassis, the frame rails with the front and rear crossmember. The ask from the gentleman that I've worked for before, the ask from him is to build a center X member, kind of like the way that TCI does. So here is the style, I don't know if you can see it very well, the style of X member that he wants me to make. So it's 1 by 2 rectangular tubing that we're going to go up this way. We're going to have a piece going across here, but what I'll do is I'll take this drawing, I'll scale it up, and then I'll take the measurements off relative to where the body mounts are. Then I'll know exactly where they've put these in, basically within 1/4 of an inch or less, and I will replicate these cross members. I've got the spring, the front axle, a bunch of front end stuff, so we've got enough to start working on the front end. But first, probably what we'll be doing, I'm hoping to get some of them started on this episode, but first thing will be to level and check the frame since I don't have a jig. We'll level it up, we'll check it for square. If everything is good, then I'll start building the cross member, more than likely with the first piece going across the center. We'll tack it in place and just keep checking to make sure that I don't distort things along the way. Again, ideally, if I had a jig that I could weld this to the jig and then, you know, weld everything all at the same time, but we don't. So what we'll do, like I said, we'll weld each piece in, we'll tack it, we'll check for square, and we'll just keep going along like that. Once everything is all tacked in place, then I'll go around and I'll finish weld it, and it should turn out okay. But it is a 33 5-window coupe, not chopped. He doesn't have the body work done on it. He bought the body 18 years ago. It's been stored in his garage. It's probably got a couple coats of paint onto it. There's no holes, there's no rust. It's going to be a really cool project. As soon as I can get some pictures of it, I'll show everybody it. But hopefully, like, I'll be picking away at this project in between working on the Camera Ladies chassis and Ellie's coupe there. So we typically have 2 to 3 projects on the go at any one time here, just because if you've got something stopped, you can work on the other thing. Like if you're waiting for a nut, a bolt, or something silly like that, and you go on another project. And if you're stopped on that, then you go on the other one. So you just kind of keep it rolling. And that way we stay busy. So anyways, right now we're going to move the chassis over to the other garage and probably pick away a few things on that. And I'll start figuring out where I'm going to start putting the cross members here on this 33 Ford chassis. Well, I'm getting a little bit started on the 33 frame. It has been really, really warm here. I know as it is in other places. We kind of got a little bit of a drought condition going on and few fires and stuff. So I haven't been in the garage as much as I wanted to this week, but I'm going to try and get something done here on a 33 frame. I've established already that the frame is actually very, very square. Got the levels onto it. Both ends are very level on the jacks and then good from corner to corner. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to start with tacking in some of the centerpieces. So we'll do this one on the top. I'll do one on the bottom. We'll do some cross braces, and then I'll just go as far as I can in this episode and carry on in the next one. Plugging away with this center cross member. I have the center section cut out and put in place. Then I have the supports going across the back. I originally tacked everything in place and checked for level and square, and everything else were still good. So I've run some of the beads to reinforce it. Now I still have to make the centerpieces that will go across the front here, but kind of running out of time this week. What we made this out of was basically 1x2 rectangular tubing, 125 wall, which is basically the same as what the frame rails are made of. And like I said at the beginning, we kind of used the TCI center cross member as a inspiration. I did scale some of the dimensions off of the frame, off of the catalog. I did change a little bit. I made our center section there 12 inches wide. Now it seems awful narrow there for the drive shaft to fit through. I did follow their dimensions and I double checked it off of our 32 frame. Everything should fit in there, but essentially the transmission cross member is going to be fitting somewhere about here, about 6 inches. About 5 to 6 inches in front of this. Worst case scenario, if I find that this is in the way, what I'll do is I'll either cut it out or I'll just drop it down so that there's room. I have plenty of clearance for the tail shaft and the drive shaft to go through. But I mean, in theory, there is enough room. It just looks really thin right now, but we'll address that as we go forward, as we get the engine and the transmission going in here. But for now, we're going to carry on putting the front sections here on the frame. Well, that's it for another week of Coldstream Rod Shop. I didn't get anything more done in a 33 chassis. It was just still too warm. So we packed it in and we're finishing off the video. It's actually video day anyways. So that's kind of as far as we went. So in wrap up, we have the engine and transmission and the camera ladies chassis. I did manage to get the headers and put those on kind of off camera. We got some work done on the 33 Ford chassis. I got to go play with a louver press that hopefully in the near future will do some work for one of these projects on it. It was the first time it was used. The gentleman had bought it I don't know how many years ago and never fired it up. So I got to go down there and play with it and got it going. He's got 4 or 5 different size dies. So I don't know if we'll do something for the camera lady's Roadster. Got to talk to her about doing the front hood. We've got an original hood. I'm kind of thinking maybe doing some louvers across the top, and she's nodding her head. So that's good. That's going to be a future project. We'll do a video doing that. And then we're going to carry on doing all the little bits and pieces on her chassis, and then ultimately getting the body back over in the other shop. But that's kind of getting ahead of myself right now. But anyways, that's it for this week of Coldstream Rod Shop. Please like, share, tag, subscribe, send me your comments, and come on back next week and see what we're up to. Everybody take care and have a great week.